So then we get down to this page, and I'll show you what I mean, what I do with this photo. I'll do a directional feather. And so if we go down here, I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to use this 3-column grid just as a basis, and I'm going to give this a drop cap. Drop cap. Here's the drop cap. And we want to take away the indent. I also want to change that. I'll change that to the sans serif that I'm using up on the first page. Now as we're going through this, if you notice that we have like development of the Fiat trackside program, so that's a header. So I want to make sure that as we're looking through things, we're seeing what are headers. And so this right here is a header, so you want to differentiate it. Maybe I'll maintain that sans serif, and we're going to differentiate it by size, make it bigger. We're not going to indent it. And then the other thing that I showed you in the resume project, we'll give it some space above so that it is separated from the previous item. And then as we go through, we can find other headers. So we have experience tailored for Fiat owners. Here it is. Instead of doing this whole process all over again, we can just eyedropper and click and make it that one. And now with this eyedropper, we can also highlight the next header and change it. Let's see, what else do we have? So we have getting trackside with Bondurant Fiat experience. So here it is. So we can just click and drag this over this, and it automatically makes it that design. Okay, so now let's bring in that photo that I was going to use on the first page. And so let's drag this out, bring it to the bottom, send it to the back, and then let's do a directional feather so it feathers off the top. So object, effects, directional feather. Make sure it's previewing so you can see what's happening as you highlight this. And I hold the shift key down as I do this. I'm going to keep on feathering until I get close to the mountains. I don't want to feather the mountaintop, like I don't want to do that. So that's good right there. But the type is over the photograph, and how do we affect that? You can select the photo, and then you can go to text wrap and click on text wrap. But that stops the type, and it doesn't go into the photo. And I think the type can actually go into the photo a little bit. And so what we can do is we can have a negative text wrap. So a positive text wrap will bring it farther away, but a negative text wrap will also. And notice that it's going consistently all the way around, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to go back and then break the link here, and then do a negative text wrap this way. There we go. So now the type is going into the photograph that way. So right here we have our caption information. Bring that over into this design and paste it. And so where would that caption information go in this particular scenario? Well, I guess it could go right here, about the same width as the 3 columns, but notice that it's being hidden because there's a text wrap. So how do you fix that. So what we can do is we can go to select the type, then Object, Text Frame Options, and ignore text wrap. Click OK. And so now we have that adhering to the grid. And in this little area right here, would it be better over here with the lighter sky? We want to keep it a bit distant away from the actual story. So we want to make sure it's separated enough so it doesn't feel like it's part of the story. And maybe over here, we want to align it to the right. Okay, so there's that. And then we have, so there's this weirdness going on right here, and I never want to try and do this. I want to always make sure that this portion of the story continues over here. So let's go back to the photo and make it 9. Okay, so that brought down that headline, or that line, and so that brought the headline up like this. We want to avoid widows like this. So if we have a header like this, I usually like to highlight it, go into paragraph, and then into this flyout menu and do balanced ragged lines. I think you can also get to it with this line right here, balanced ragged lines. Yes, you can. And so now that kind of evens out that line. So here's our big photograph, and now maybe we want to do some a smaller photograph, and so we got a lot of gray going on here. So let's kind of bring in a photo over on this side, and all right, so this has got a lot of space on top, so let's open this up and let's drag this in, and I'm going to have it bleed off the top of the page. So I'm going to Command Shift, click and drag like that. And you can crop up. There's a lot of asphalt here we don't need. We can crop up like that, and then again put a text wrap on that. But notice that the type touches the photo, and we want to make sure that you're offsetting the photo, the text wrap, so there's some white space between the type and the photo. Excuse me. And my rule of thumb is whatever the gutter is, so the gutter is 1 pica, I'm going to make the text wrap the same distance. So here I'm going to have 1p all the way around. So 1p is the gutter and 1p is the text wrap. And so that gives it a nice space away. If we hit the W key, nice space right there, even space all the way around. Let's do something else. Let's go and see what else we can do. Let's do this this small detail shot. Click open, and let's just drag that here. Put this in this column. Again, do a 1 pica all the way around. There might be need for maybe one more photograph. It seems still a little bit gray over here, so let's Command D, just file in place. Let's see what they have for second choices. Okay, let's try this one. Now again, we're starting to fight each other here with the size of these photographs. And again, we have a lot of asphalt here, so we can crop in on that. We've got a lot of sky here. We can crop down on that and make this kind of a little detail shot. And text wrap that 1 pica. So with this and this, these guys are fighting each other a little bit. So maybe we want to move this over to this last column right here so that they aren't fighting each other. They aren't so close to one another. And the next thing we have is our sidebar, or our alternative story form, which you have to design. You have to fill your entire sidebar or your alternative story form into your design of your first 2 pages. So I'm going to grab sidebar interview. Okay, open. If we go to this, kind of go down here, and here is this interview. You can see I again use the black and the gold based on the first photo, and we have different people being interviewed, and each one of their each of them have 5 questions that they're answering. No, that's not the sidebar. I'm just going to grab this because I can't seem to find that type. And how would I design this into this space? And I have not given you guys sidebars that are this big. So what we can do is we can put it into this space right here. One pica away from, and maybe in 2 columns. And obviously it doesn't fit. But this is one way to incorporate your sidebar into your design. And right now the offset is not as big as I wanted it to be. There we go. Text wrap, make sure it's 1 pica. Same as our gutter. There we go. So here's just a basic design of what I'm thinking you want to do with this project. Is you want to make sure that this is all one copy block that is separated into 3 columns with a 1 pica gutter, and this is the same 3 columns with a 1 pica gutter, and then using text wrap to separate the photo from the type. Text wrap to separate the photo from the type. If you have captions, turn off text wrap by going to Object, Text Frame Options, and ignore text wrap.